Hey, everybody, welcome back to another edition of the FutureCast. Cole, we'll call this kind of the improv FutureCast, if you will. As you can probably see, if you're paying attention, my surroundings are much different than they usually are. I'm in lovely Edmond, Oklahoma for a wedding that I'll be going to. My sister-in-law gets married tomorrow, man. So, I'm in Oklahoma. Cole's having computer issues, so he's recording on his iPhone. Damn good. Looks good to me, Cole. I don't know. I mean, I'm different audio setup. So an improv edition of the FutureCast. So we got a lot to talk about, man. We talked about it last week that we would have a lot to talk about. And we do. We were at the Under Armour All-American Camp. So we'll get to that here in a second. But hey, everybody, got to start off. primeshrimp.com. You see it at the top. $20 off your first order. Use that promo code OrangeBloods. Get you some primeshrimp.com. Cole, I keep saying it. It's almost lunchtime as we record this. I need to restock my freezer. Yeah, dude, my mouth is salivating talking about it. The problem is, like I always say, I got to keep my kids from eating. Speaking of my kids, I'm recording in an Airbnb that I'm staying at with my wife, my 3 daughters, and my mother-in-law. Lucky me, right? And my wife and
lovely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, can sense your envy. My wife and mother-in-law are out helping my sister-in-law get her wedding dress. So my daughters are being lazy and they're still sleeping as it's 11:15. So hopefully they don't pop out of their rooms here and start hollering at me for being too loud or something. But such is life when you're on the road. But go to primeshrimp.com, get your Prime Shrimp order, use that promo code, subscribe to our Orange Bloods YouTube channel, like this video. We like that, but also subscribe, get your notifications anytime we do these FutureCasts or all the other great YouTube content we have on this channel. So Cole, you and I were both at a very windy and chilly Under Armour camp in Dallas last weekend. I always love those events though, man. I came up and spent the whole weekend up in Dallas and saw some old friends, a mutual colleague of ours, Jason Howe, and I hung out with him. And he used to be an Orange Bloods guy, and hung out with him. And then we go to the camps and there's just so much content that we get out of those camps, right? It's great. So, I mean, sometimes like, oh man, I got to travel, but then it's like, I got 20 interviews done. So I got content for the week, but what I want to do coming out of this camp, Cole, you put in, I think it was 3 FutureCast picks. Is that right?
Yeah, that is right.
Okay. I did only 1. So you're a little more confident than I am. And I'm not necessarily that I even disagree with you. I'm just pretty, I'm a little more reluctant to put those picks in, a little more cautious until I have a really good feeling on them. Yeah. So we're going to go through them, and then we're going to talk about some other guys we saw at the camp and kind of where they fit in. So let's start off. We'll talk about the FutureCast that you did put in, one that we shared. And the first one I want to talk about is Daniel Cruz, the offensive lineman from North Richland Hills. He's a guy that's been high on Texas' list for a while. He's been high on Texas for a while. Tell me your thoughts, man. You've got a FutureCast in favor of Texas. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, he was obviously down on campus in January when we were down there for junior day. He's, we got to talk to him again this past weekend, as you mentioned, and it seems like every single time we talk to him, one of us talk to him, he talks very highly of Kyle Flood, Texas, the whole program. So that wasn't too much of a surprise for him to bring up Texas again, but what kind of made me go ahead and put the pick in, I'm sure you as well, is he really only has 1 official visit set up. He was talking to me and said that Ohio State's another team he's at least looking at, but he didn't really seem too confident that they would actually get that official visit. But possibly they do, but it's not nothing set in stone. He's also visiting Texas in the spring for spring ball. Like I said, it'll be in the summer for an official visit. Kyle Flood's kind of made him that priority. Sarkisian, they visited him right before or after the dead period. All the months are kind of running together right now. But they went by his school and everything, made him the priority. Basically, all of that. Just talking to him, everything I'm hearing, I just went ahead and put the pick in. But I don't know when it happens necessarily. I don't know if that happens this spring, if he waits till the summer. But I do see Texas eventually winning out first commitment for all the reasons like I mentioned. Kyle Flood has made him that top guy on the offensive line. They've really not hitting that at all, and I think that's going to pay off.
Yeah, he loves Flood, and Flood loves him as a center. He's kind of the only true center they're recruiting. His plan, he told me, is to commit at the end of summer, so probably in July. He wants to take some June official visits. You said it. Your pick is in for the same reason my pick is in.
Yeah.
He's got one visit planned this spring to Texas. He's got one official visit in the books to Texas. Nothing else. I mean, he's probably going to visit Ohio State. He mentioned maybe a couple unofficial visits, maybe to Texas A&M. Anytime Ohio State's involved there, if Ohio State pushes, that gives you a little bit of reason for pause. But everything about this one points to Texas, right? So
Yeah.
I've got my pick in for Texas as well. I'm looking at a July, maybe an August decision for Daniel Cruz. Okay, let's move on. I think this one's pretty interesting. And I want you to give your reason, and then I'll tell you whether I disagree or agree with you. Defensive back Corey Gibson, he's classified as a safety, but he and I talked on Sunday, and he's like, man, schools, including Texas, are telling me that's what they like about me. I can play corner. I can play any of the defensive back spots. So defensive back out of Lancaster, you put in a FutureCast in favor of Texas, Cole. How strongly do you feel about that pick, and why did you make that pick?
Yeah, I don't feel as strongly as I do with Cruz or the other pick I made that we'll get to. But I do feel confident. I mean, I put the pick in, so obviously I do feel have some confidence that Texas will be the pick. He's another guy right now. He only has an official visit lined up with Texas. He is talking to Alabama and Ohio State about visiting there, so Texas probably won't be the only one. But as of right now, that's the only OV he has. He's been a regular visitor to campus for junior day events, for their summer pool parties, whatever you want to name it. He's been on campus more often than not. And just talking to people around him and people that know his recruitment, they say that Texas has done a really good job recruiting him. Terry Joseph has done a good job building that relationship. Really, the whole staff. It started with Chris Gilbert when he was on staff at Texas, those connections in the Dallas area. And then I feel just talking to him, I feel confident it's going to be Texas eventually. The birthday weekend, he wants to take his official visit on his birthday weekend to Texas. He mentioned to me that's kind of something he really wants to do, and he said, why not be at Texas for his birthday? And just reading the tea leaves, I do think Texas is in a good spot. I do think they're a slight leader in his recruitment. I think Alabama's right there as well, Ohio State, as I mentioned, but I gave Texas the edge. That's another recruitment that will probably go down in the summer, maybe even later than that, but I like where Texas sits right now.
Yeah, I'm probably going to try to do the recruiting board, kind of reset that recruiting board next week. Mm-hmm. And I will have Texas as the leader for Corey Gibson. So I don't, if you're saying, hey, you've got him at 60%, why not put in a FutureCast? Okay, I guess you could make that argument. I usually don't do it unless I'm probably 75-ish%. Again, I'm a little more conservative on my picks, but I tend to agree with you. I think Texas is a team to beat. You mentioned Alabama and then Ohio State. I think those are probably 2 and 3 if we're putting them in order. He is planning on taking official visits to both those schools. But like you said, man, I think Texas has hit the right buttons there. Coach Joseph has done a good job in communication with him. He likes the message he's heard from the Texas coaches. I like Texas. I'm not quite there to put in a FutureCast pick yet, just because, as I said, I'm more conservative. Following that official visit, I may join you. But, I do like Texas there, and I think that's a good pick. The next one you put in isn't a guy we talked to at the camp. I wish he would have been there. Would have loved to have seen him work out. But still, tremendous player and a guy that I know we both really like. Michael Uini, the offensive lineman from Copper's Cove. You went ahead and put in your Texas FutureCast pick, Cole. Again, what's the reason in there, and how confident are you?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of similar reasons for Daniel Cruz. Kyle Flood's kind of made him a priority on the recruiting trail. He's been on campus several times. I actually went down to Copper's Cove during the season, and he lit up talking about Kyle Flood in Texas. I think that was right before the TCU game, if I remember correctly, and he was on campus early that year. He went back for the TCU game. He's been back since then, so it's just him repeatedly visiting. Kyle Flood kind of making him a big priority on the offensive line. He has picked some offers up recently. He was just at Clemson. He has a pretty big offer sheet with, Alabama, Oklahoma also involved in his recruitment. But I like where Texas stands. I think they have been pushing the right buttons. And Kyle Flood has kind of shown when he makes it a priority at offensive line, he's going to win out more often than not, which is another reason why we both put Cruz in. It's kind of a pick that I've been wanting to make for a while now. Or when I say a while, not too long, but, for a couple months. I just went ahead and wanted to go ahead and do that. it's another recruitment I think Texas is going to win out. They're in a good spot, and I don't really see them kind of losing much ground there as the recruitment progresses.
Now, I think I'm looking, unfortunately, Cole, if you wind up being right on that one, Jeff Ketchum is going to have bragging rights. He put his pick in a couple weeks ago, so Ketch will never let us live that down.
Yeah.
But
First off.
yeah, so but you feel more confident with Uini than you do than Gibson.
Correct? Yeah. I mean, probably kind of around the same range.
Yeah.
Probably around that 60 to 80, kind of somewhere in that, that range. I think Gibson's probably in the lower end. He's probably in the higher end. It's probably what I have. Yeah.
I need to follow up with Michael because he did tell me 2-3 weeks ago when I talked to him, he said, hey, he's probably coming in for that March 25th Texas Junior Day. He was in for the one in January that we were at. I need to confirm if he is for sure coming in. I tend to agree with you, Cole, but I just think this one's going to have a lot of teams involved. He's keeping a very open mind. Corey Gibson's got an open mind. He's, I think it's Alabama, Ohio State, maybe a couple other fringe programs. I think Michael Uini is really a bit more open at this point. So there's nobody I'd put in front of Texas. When you're saying Texas versus that entire field, man, I think it's close to 50-50. But the one thing that maybe tips me in Texas's favor is something you said. When Kyle Flood makes a guy a priority and has time to work on and develop those relationships like he has with Uini, he doesn't miss on a lot of those dudes, man. So he gets most of those guys he wants. So I would favor Texas in that one slightly, like you obviously do. Not enough just yet where I'm going to put a FutureCast pick in. If he comes down for that Junior Day in a couple of weeks, which is the 15th, so 10 days from now, and I'll check with him. I'll try to do that today to confirm. That may change my tune because he's been down there a couple times, and that'll be big getting him in for a spring practice and stuff. Obviously, Texas needs to get him in for an official visit too. I like Texas's position, but not quite ready to put my FutureCast pick in just yet. I've talked to Michael several times, and he's genuinely pretty open. When he and I talk, he's genuinely pretty open. I want to touch on two. I want to make a note to myself here because one just popped in my head. I'm going to touch on two that we didn't, that weren't at the camp, Cole, and neither one of us has FutureCast picks in. And I'm a little surprised you don't on one of them because you talked to this guy. He was at the camp. He didn't work out at the camp on Sunday. Jordan Johnson-Rebel, the safety out of IMG Academy in Florida, is originally from Texas. He was at the camp. He just visited Texas. You talked to him. You interviewed him, I believe, didn't you, on Sunday?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't interview him, but he and I just kind of chatted and just, kind of talked a little bit off the record, if you will. How close would you be to putting in a FutureCast for him to Texas? I think Texas is in a really good spot there.
Yeah, he's another guy I considered as well. And kind of like Corey Gibson, he's kind of a guy that they've prioritized at safety in the defensive backfield for a long time now. He used to be at Brewer High School in the Fort Worth area. Like you said, he's now at IMG. But yeah, they've pushed the right buttons there. I'm a little hesitant. I think I'm pretty close to putting it in. The only thing I'm hesitant about is kind of mentioning wanting to take other visits. He wants to see Oregon, wants to see Ohio State. TCU's always been heavily in the mix there as well, being from the Fort Worth area. He likes Oklahoma. But, again, that's another recruitment where I want to put anybody in front of Texas for sure. Getting him back on campus this past weekend, I guess he was there on the Friday, I believe, Friday or Saturday before coming up for that camp, was pretty important. He visited TCU either the same day or the day before. And he's going to also be officially visiting that same weekend that Gibson will be in town as well. So, yeah, I'm pretty close there as well. Maybe I'm kind of pulling you and being a little cautious, but he could very well be my next pick. I like where Texas sits in that recruitment.
Yeah, he seems to find a way anytime he comes home for spring break or a summer, whatever, to get down to Austin. He seems to find a way to make his way down there. Even getting to TCU, that's a little easier for him. But yeah, I don't know, man. I think Texas looks pretty good there. Another one, I don't have my FutureCast pick in, but again, there's nobody I would put in front of Texas in this one. Defensive tackle Alex January out of Duncanville. He wasn't at the camp on Sunday. He doesn't do camps. But I got word last night from a source close to him. He's supposed to go to Oklahoma on March 25th for their Junior Day. Well, Texas reached out to him, I presume, just yesterday. I got this message last night, said, hey, Bo Davis reached out, really wants to get him down to Austin on March 25th. He's thinking about switching up those plans, going from maybe Oklahoma to Texas instead. Now, Oklahoma will still get a visit. He's got a bunch of other places. He's got like 8 schools, I think, that he's still considering. He's planning on being at Texas for the spring game. I don't know if he comes in for the junior day on the 25th, if that maybe changes the spring game plans, but maybe he comes in for both. Then maybe Texas gets him in for an official visit. His dad played at Texas. So there's a lot of draw there to Texas.
Yeah.
I've talked to people close to Alex, and they say, and I believe him, I mean, he's pretty open though. He's really, I think he's a kid, and his family, they're really being thorough and kind of taking, with their due diligence on these schools. And it's not just about, hey, I love this coach, or hey, I just feel comfortable there. I mean, it's about how is it going to be used, and academics, and just a lot of things that they're really taking into account as they should. And, but I think Texas has a good shot there. And if he changes that visit from Oklahoma to Texas, to me, that's another chip on the Texas side of the scale. So that's something we'll keep an eye on to see if he winds up making it to Austin for that junior day on March 25th. Okay, Cole, kind of the next tier of guys in my mind, and maybe you'll disagree with me. I've got a couple guys in this next tier, and then I've got another tier where I think guys that Texas is in play with, but I don't think Texas leads. But these are guys that were at the Under Armour camp on Sunday. Got to see them both, talk to them both. I'm going to just put them together. Selman Bridges, the Lake Belton DB, who, my goodness, that kid, man, you see him out. They lined up all the DBs at that camp, and the DB line goes like this. Okay, here's a head here, a little taller. Selman Bridges is like, he's like so much taller than everybody else out there. I'm like, damn, he's easy to pick out. But then also,
that's for sure.
Yeah, man, he's I think what is he listed, like 6'3", 6'4", something like that.
Long too, long enough.
Yeah. And then Kobe Black out of Waco Connolly, the Rivals 100 member, another guy that was there. It didn't work out, but he was there to make his announcement that he's playing in the Under Armour game. So got a chance to talk to both of them. I don't have FutureCasts in for either one of them. But man, I don't know. Again, I'm going to say it, keep using this term. I don't know that there's anybody I would put in front of Texas for either one of those players. I think Texas has a great shot with both of them. I mean, they're both kind of from that Waco area. So you're talking, 90-ish minutes from Austin. They've both been to Texas a bunch. Selman Bridges is coming back on March 25th. Kobe Black said he'd be back this spring sometime. He's got a bunch of other visits too. But, I fully expect him back this spring and probably for an official visit. So I don't know that I'd put anybody in front of Texas. If I did my recruiting board, and I reserve the right to change this next week if I do it, but I'd probably put Texas as a slight leader for both of them in my mind. So am I off on that, or what are your thoughts on those two talented DBs?
Yeah, no, I agree. If I remember correctly, you already have Texas as a leader for Kobe on your pass.
Kobe, I did. Mm-hmm.
So, but no, yeah, I definitely agree. I think it also helps that he's played with a couple guys at Texas at Waco Connolly. Yes. Jelani McDonald, even Trey Wisner before he transferred to DeSoto.
So he's buddies with Darian Gillette, the freshman linebacker from Marlin. So he's got a lot of guys. We talked about this. I have a lot of friends down there at Texas. Yeah,
for sure. And that obviously doesn't hurt. His brother is at Oklahoma State, and I do think they're a serious factor. OU, Alabama, LSU, a couple other programs as well. But yeah, I agree with you. I think Texas is that leader. If this kind of on that same topic, if they can pull one of these two guys, Bridges or Kobe Black, and then Jordan Johnson Rebel, Corian Gibson, to go along with the classic pulled in last year in the secondary, could be a lot. That could be huge for Terry Joseph and Blake Gideon and this whole defensive staff. But no, I agree. I think Texas is a leader for Kobe Black. I'm not as familiar with Selman Bridges as you are. I've talked to him for a little bit, but I know a little bit more about Kobe Black. But yeah, Selman Bridges, same thing. Texas is doing a good job recruiting him. He's from the area, Lake Belton, teammates with Micah Hudson. So they're going to make him a priority as well. And I think what I like about both guys as well, kind of outside of recruitment, is they both play basketball, and that usually translates pretty well to the secondary. But yeah, Texas is in a really good spot with a bunch of DBs, and those are two more that should be in heavy consideration to potentially join the class.
Yeah, I believe. I need to go back through my notes. I don't have them in front of me. I'm sorry, but I believe that Texas visit for Selman Bridges is the only one he has locked in right now. And he said, hey, Sark himself is making him a big priority. So I don't know, it just kind of feels like one that Texas could, and I want to say should win, but I mean, he's right up the road. And man, we talked about his height. I mean, Kobe Black's legit 6'1", maybe 6'2".
Yeah.
I mean, the days of, I can't remember the last time I interviewed a corner that was like, 5'9" or 5'10". All these dudes nowadays are like, I'm 6 foot, and I'm like looking up at these guys as I interview them most times. So it's just a different breed that
Yeah.
recruiting now. So, all right, cool. I'm gonna move down to the next tier. I've got 1, 2, 3, 6 guys on this list. I think Texas could land any of them. Okay. But I don't know that I would put Texas in front for any of them. But a couple guys you talked to, a couple guys I talked to, we'll just kind of get each of our thoughts on there. Terry Bussey, the athlete out of Timpson, worked out at wide receiver at that camp. It was funny at that camp for people watching. They had them broken down in like 4 different groups in terms of the quarterbacks throwing to the wide receivers and the DBs. Well, so you can't see everything all at once, right? I mean, they're kind of different corners. So the first glimpse I got at Terry Bussey, he got jammed at the line of scrimmage, and it just wasn't a good rep. I was like, oh man, okay. But then I think I saw 6 other reps, and he just burned whoever was in front of him, including some really good competition that lined up. He went one-on-one against. So I came with that, man. I was like, wow, I was really impressed with Terry Bussey. But you talked to him, Cole. I didn't get to talk to him. You did. Just kind of the tea leaves. I've DM'd with him a bunch. Texas was late getting their offer out there compared to some other schools. Because of that, I don't think I would put Texas out in front. But you know what? You talked to him directly, so you give me your thoughts.
Yeah, that was actually my first time seeing Terry in action in person, and obviously his film's really good. He's pretty much almost a message board legend. Orange Bloods loves his film. Was so happy when he finally got the offer. So he lived up to the hype on Sunday. He's a lot of fun to watch, as you mentioned. But yeah, just talking to him about his recruitment, he talks pretty highly of Texas. I do think Texas A&M is probably the biggest competition right now for his recruitment or first commitment, excuse me. But yeah, he said Stark's talking to him a lot, making that priority. They want him to play in the defensive backfield. They like him as a nickel or safety. Kind of said they're talking to him about some different positions back there. I think A&M also likes him at DB. Other programs like him on offense. He's kind of open to playing wherever. But yeah, he really likes that Texas staff, Sarkisian, Joseph Gideon, all the guys are pretty much making him a priority. He said he is trying to get down for a potential visit this spring or summer. He wants to see campus again. He's been on campus before, and I do think he's a guy that Texas can really get in the mix for. But as you mentioned, they kind of waited a little bit to get that offer out. I'm honestly not really sure why, but A&M's kind of took advantage, of that, kind of got their offer first, built some momentum and built some ground there. But I do think Texas is firmly in the mix there because of how much they're making him a priority. He already thought pretty highly of Texas before he got that offer. So it'll be interesting where things go. But I do think Texas and Texas A&M are probably the 2 teams to watch there.
That's interesting. When they offered him, he told me that Texas did not talk to him about a position. So that's the first time hearing that they've talked to him more about defensive back. So interesting. Most recruits say, okay, hey, just whatever allows me the best opportunity to get to the next level, so on and so forth. But man, he's a fun guy to watch with the ball in his hands. But you can always do some of that on special teams too. Speaking of a guy with the ball in his hands, Freddie DeBose, the receiver from Smithson Valley, was out at the camp, and he had the big knee brace on. He tore up his knee, his ACL and everything. It was the first game last year, I believe. So we're talking like September. And he told me beforehand, like he's out there, he's like, yeah, I'm probably like 70% on. He's got a big knee brace. And, I'm thinking in my mind, it's like, man, I don't know if I'd be out here. But he goes, yeah, he goes, he wanted to try to get the Under Armour game invite. But the most interesting part of Freddie DeBose is after the camp, they takes off the Under Armour gear they give him. Dude, he had a Longhorn shirt on. He had Longhorn shorts on. So I'm like, all right, Freddie, I got to get a picture of that. He's like, yeah, come on, bring it on. So, things have kind of run hot and cold with Freddie in Texas early on. And I'll tell this story, and I don't think Freddie would care. You'd probably laugh at it. I think it was a pool party last summer, and he made mention of like, when I come to Texas. And we're like, what? And he goes, I mean, if I come to Texas, da-da-da-da-da. Well, then things kind of cooled off with Texas. They weren't talking to him as much. He gets injured. Now they get a new wide receiver coach, Chris Jackson, and the contact is picked back up. Obviously, I think Texas and probably most other programs want to see how he responds and comes back from that knee injury. But just the fact that he's out there wearing all burnt orange, like basically from head to toe, is a pretty good sign of his interest in Texas. So
yeah,
I've always felt this way, Cole. I'm like, if Texas really pushes there, I think Freddie DeBose is a Longhorn. Okay, I felt that for a long time. I still feel that way, but they may want to see him in the fall, see how he responds with his knee and stuff. Okay, let's move on. I'm looking at my list here. A guy, just kind of curious to hear your thoughts. I didn't get to talk to him. I don't know if you did either. We probably need to follow up with him if not. But Blake Ivy, the offensive lineman out of Clear Springs, looked really good at the camp. But kind of your thoughts on, again, I don't think I'd put Texas as the leader there, but clearly Texas is involved there. So your thoughts on Blake Ivy?
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to talk to him afterwards, but he did look good, as you mentioned. He performed really well in the drills and one-on-ones, and obviously moves well. It's good size. Another guy, another offensive lineman that's been on campus several times. Just kind of reading the tea leaves, talking to him before. It seems like Texas and Texas A&M, another in-state battle is brewing there. Like I said, I don't know if Texas is the leader, but I think they're right there with A&M. I guess we'll kind of be interested to see how that offensive line class shakes out, who commits, how many spots are going to take, all that kind of stuff. But I do think Texas is right there with A&M, and those are the two teams that are kind of high up in his recruitment.
Yeah, I tend to agree with everything you just said. And if you remember last year, all that movement really happened after the official visit weekend in June, right? I think Texas did they get all their commitments like on one day, basically, in offensive line commitments? So, those official visits coming up in June will be big, and I'm kind of with you. I think Texas and Texas A&M clearly will get visits, and we'll see how that one shakes out there. Taylor Tatum, the running back out of Longview, I talked to him before the camp. Really likes Texas, really likes the Shard choice, but he does have official visits set up to Michigan and Southern Cal. I think Texas is in the mix there. I think Texas will get another visit at some point. I don't know if it'll be an official visit. Maybe it comes down this spring. But I don't know that I would put Texas kind of in that top tier. I'd probably have Texas 35 to 40% tops going against the field. So, we've talked about Jarrett Gibson, the running back out of IMG Academy, a lot. Texas wants two running backs. Taylor Tatum and Jarrett Gibson, to me, don't pair well together, if you will, because they're kind of similar style runners and similar style backs. Mm-hmm. If Texas is in as good a position with Jarrett Gibson, who I've got my FutureCast in for, I always thought it was going to be tough to get Taylor Tatum alongside Jarrett Gibson. After talking to Tatum on Sunday, I still feel that way. I think Texas is in the mix. He likes the Shard choice a lot. Doesn't have any plans to get to Austin, though, and he's got a couple other official visits already set up. I think Texas may have work to do there. Anthony Smith's an interesting one, the linebacker out of Jasper. 6 months ago, I would have probably been close to putting in my FutureCast pick for Texas. Now the contact kind of goes hot and cold a little bit. A&M has really surged there. Cole, your thoughts on Anthony Smith and maybe where things stand?
Yeah, that was funny talking to him. He was wearing a Baylor pullover, and you take that off your picture. But no, it seemed like Texas was in a really good spot, like you said early on. I did catch up with him afterwards. It was kind of weird. He mentioned not being in regular contact with Texas, at least not as much as he used to be. But right after he said that, he said he's planning to visit on the 25th for their big, visit weekend. So I'm not sure what's going on there, if they kind of just want to bring him back in on campus and get him around the coaches again, or what's going on. But yeah, I think if Texas pushes, if they can pick up the communication, they'll be right there in the mix. Like I said, he was wearing the Baylor shirt. I think Baylor's in there. He really likes USC. I think visited USC. He mentioned wanting to get back to USC for an unofficial and an official if things can work out there. So I think USC might be kind of creeping in as the favorite or the leader, whatever you want to call that. But just getting him around campus, getting him around the coaches and players later this month, I think could be pretty big as his spring visits and his summer OVs kind of shape up.
Yeah, if Texas makes him a priority, makes him feel like a priority, I think Texas can certainly win that one. But it's kind of gone off and on a little bit here and there. So, that was funny, Cole, after the camp. It was a Baylor jacket, and Cole's like, hey, can I get your picture? for Orange Bloods. And I'm like, yeah, dude, that jacket's not going to go over. I said, don't worry, we'll Photoshop it into burnt orange and white. So, but no, Ty Anthony's a great kid. I always like talking to him. The last one I have, Cole, is Bryant Wesco, the wide receiver out of Midlothian. Most people think it's Oklahoma, maybe TCU. I tend to agree with that. I did talk to Bryant recently. He got the Texas offer. He's very intrigued by it. His sister plays soccer at Oklahoma. When I heard that and he told me that, I flat out asked him, I said, dude, why do most people think Oklahoma's a team to beat? He goes, well, my sister plays soccer there. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And, I don't know a lot about Bryant, but when I talked to him, I get the impression that he and his mom are pretty close. And I'm like, okay, if mom can have both their kids on one campus, that just makes a lot of sense. And TCU is close to home, of course. So I think Texas has a shot there. I think they'll be able to get him on campus if Texas wants it. He was really good at that camp. He got wide receiver MVP. I think Texas will have a shot there. Don't know. In fact, I don't know that I'd put him as the leader. I would not put him as the leader. I'd put Texas probably at third at best right now. So am I wrong on that, Cole, or is that pretty?
Yeah, no, I agree. Texas offered kind of late as well. Was that back in January, if I'm not mistaken?
It was this spring or late winter, I guess.
But so, but no, he was awesome, as he mentioned. He was one of the top camp performers of the entire event. He was great. But yeah, I think that connection to Oklahoma and just having TCU, he's from Midlothian, so just having TCU right down the street basically is going to be tough to overcome. But that said, get him on campus, get him around Chris Jackson. You don't know how things will work from there. I'm not sure who else you're going to bring up, but while we're on guys who Texas is in on, or recruiting, two other guys I mentioned or I got to talk to, after the camp, or two more safeties that Texas is recruiting pretty hard, or at least in the mix for, and that's David Kabongo out of Byron Nelson and Kadavian Dotson out of Duncanville. Both guys are planning to be at Texas this spring. I think Dotson said it's going to be the 24th, so like the day before the big junior day visit. And Kambago said he's going to try to get down there on the 30th, 31st, whenever that last weekend of the month is, about last Saturday. He's planning to get down there. Two guys, I don't know if Texas is a leader for. I do think if they push for Kabongo, I think that could be something they can win. I wouldn't say easily, but they could for sure win that recruitment. Dotson, he's always been on campus, kind of like with Gibson. He always comes down with Corey Gibson, another guy that they've recruited for a while. He told me Jeff Banks is after him hard. They've kind of sold him, or at least pitching him on him and Colin Simmons playing together. He admitted that's what a lot of programs are doing. But if I had to put,
that's the problem. So is LSU, and I think LSU is the leader for both of those guys. So.
That was my next sentence. I was about to say, unfortunately, LSU is the leader there. But yeah, it's getting him on campus could be pretty big. Him and Colin, especially if they get Colin as well. But yeah, another safety, two more safeties that Texas is in on. We'll kind of see how those spring visits, these March visits, kind of work, and see if Texas can make some movement there in those recruitments.
Yeah, a lot of defensive back options, it seems, on the table for Texas, and Dotson's really good, but yeah, I do think he and Colin Simmons probably, if I'm putting in a FutureCast right now, I'd probably put in LSU for both of them. And frankly, I'd probably feel pretty confident about those picks. But especially if they want to.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah, especially Dotson if they want to play together. But well, way to go, Cole. Way to be a Debbie Downer to end this one. I feel like I should talk about someone else that's going to land at Texas to wrap this up. But it is good information and just fun crewcast. Like I said, honestly, we could keep going on and on with this. There was a lot of other guys at that camp that we talked to. But hey, stay tuned or pay attention to orangebloods.com. We've had updates. We're going to have a lot more updates coming in our war room on Thursday night and probably throughout the weekend. And then next week, then obviously we get into that March 25th junior day, and Cole and I will be on hand for that. Texas relays. I think you mentioned Corey Gibson. He'll be down. Maybe I mentioned it for Texas relays. So I plan on being out there for that. That's always a good event to go just watch guys and kind of size them up and see them and talk to them. I always love that event. So I'll be out there for that. Hopefully watching my daughter run again and doing some work while I'm out there, and it's always a fun weekend. So lots going on, man. Then we get into official visits, coming up not too far around the corner down the line. So lots going on. We'll have it all covered at orangebloods.com. So go check that out. In the meantime, go get you some prime shrimp at primeshrimp.com. Use that promo code, get you 25% off. Promo code Texas25. Did I say off the top of the show? Did I say promo code Orangebloods? I hope not. But promo code Texas25 to get 25% off the orders of your first 5 or more units. Excuse me. Also, of course, subscribe to our channel, like the video, and most importantly, thanks for giving us 30 plus minutes of your time this week from Oklahoma, from Cole, recording on his iPhone, which actually worked really well. So good to know. But everybody have a great week. Blake, our producer, who kind of makes these things run smoothly. Big thanks to him. Everybody have a great week. Cole and I'll be back to talk to you soon. And everybody just take care.